Hello, Jeff Foster, WebBiz Ideas. This tutorial is on local competition category analysis. It's part of our local SEO tutorial and part of our research section. Now the main goal of this tutorial is to generate a list of categories your competitors have chosen. Or in other words, categories your competitors who rank number one for the keywords you want to rank number one for have chosen. So for example, if we want to rank number one for the word factoring, right, we want to identify what categories this company that ranks number one for entered into Google. Because when you create a Google Places listing, Google asks you for 5 categories, right? What 5 categories best describes your business? So you can just enter in anything, but if you want to rank number one, a smart business owner would be, well, what categories did Charter Capital enter in? What categories did Factor Funding, right? Or whatever companies rank number one for your words. And although you can't see the internal categories, I'm going to show you how you can find what categories they entered in. And that way, the final deliverable is going to look something like this. It's going to look a large list of categories they've chosen, and then you can break things up, and then you can make an educated decision. You don't have to copy them, but this way you can say, well, hey, this is what they're entering in. Let me, review them and pick the top 5 out of these, or plus add my own, and it just gives you more information to choose from, so you can enter in the best categories. Now, it's a very simple process. You're going to need 2 things: your keyword research, also this Google category tool, which you can find the link on our website, and there's 5 steps, very easy steps. Number 1 is finding your competitors. Number 2 is copying their categories. Number 3 is just doing this process over and over again. Number 4 is going to be checking to see if Google has that category. And then finally, choosing the categories and entering them into your local business information form, and then Google Places. So I'm going to show you all of these steps so that all makes sense to you. Step number 1, finding your competitors. Very easy. You're going to take one of the keywords that you try to rank for, do a search in Google Maps, and there are your competitors. Now, finding their categories, many times Google says them right here. The category is accounts receivable factoring, right? So you could simply copy that, add it to your list. If you already have it, obviously don't add it twice. You just want one list of just the categories. Now, but we want more than that, right? Google asks us for 5. So we want to find out if they entered 5, what 5 did they enter in? So to do that, you go to their local page, and now they list out more. It says financial planner, financial consultant. But right, we want 5. So if you click on one of the keywords, it will list the 5 they've chosen. So sometimes this won't be because they didn't enter in 5. But this is what we're looking for. So right, it's a simple copy and paste. And obviously, again, we want to make sure that we don't enter the same ones over and over again. Invoice factoring's already there. We don't need that one. Right? Financial consultants already there. We don't need that one. Right? In fact, all 5 of these are already there, so we don't need them. So don't just keep entering them over and over again, because we want one list. And that's really it, right? That's finding competitors. That's copying their categories, right? Copying it into there. The rinse and repeat is just, hey, I want to rank number 1 for factoring. I want to rank number 1 for equipment leasing, right? Rinse and repeat this process for every keyword you want to rank number 1 for. So that's very simple. That's the simple part. Now the harder part comes with choosing which categories. And so that's right, this step right here. Check if Google has that category. And this is a little complicated, so I'm going to explain this in more detail. Now, you're going to need this tool, which you can find from our website. And what you're going to do is you're just going to go down your list. You copy financial planner, and you enter it into here. If they have a category, this is the category. These are synonyms, right? So if it is a category, what I want you to do is create a list of categories. So we could even put, right, categories up here, and then just, perhaps just keywords down here. Because, right, I've already gone through these and done this, right? If you go to equipment leasing, there is no category. If you go to commercial credit, there is no category. So, right, we want to know the ones that Google recommends, because those are usually the best. So part of step 4 is organizing this. Just copy everyone, put them in here, and then organize them for the ones that have categories and the ones that just are keywords. But now you really have to choose them. You could say, hey, I'm just going to take these 5 and we're going to enter these 5 into Google Places, and I'm good to go. But is that the right decision to do? Well, that's a judgment call that you have to decide, right? And this is how you do it in our written tutorial. I'm just going to read this because it's probably the best. It says, right, check Google Category Tool to see if Google recommends your category. If you can find 5 categories Google recommends that exactly describe your business, pick those as your top 10, right? Sorry, as your top 5. So if these 5 categories or keywords describe your business exactly, well then you choose those 5, right? Or if there's, you find 10 categories, pick the top 5 of those. But if there is a category, right, or a keyword that exactly describes your business that Google does not recommend, use that instead of the one that Google recommends. So again, what do we mean by that? Well, these are the 5 that Google actually has categories for. But we may say, well, we're not a bank. That doesn't really describe my business. I don't want to use that one. So now I have 4. And you might say, well, these 2 keywords describe my business exactly. That's exactly what I do. 80% of my business, equipment leasing and factoring. And you might say, well, loan agency, that's not really what we do either, so I'm going to use those 5. So these are my final 5 categories. So that's what we mean by this, step 4, is yes, we're looking for the ones that Google recommends, but hey, if these keywords describe your business exactly, right, that's what you want to add in. And so when you add these into Google, right, they're going to recommend them, right? Financial planner, those are the 2 that we found right here, right? This tool is the same as Google's tool right there. That's why we're using this. We can research this stuff before we actually create the listing. So if that describes your business exactly, put that in. But again, if equipment leasing, describes it even better, and there's no suggestion, well, we're going to still put equipment leasing because that's what we do, and we want to rank number 1 for that keyword. And so that's basically that step. And the final step is choosing the categories and entering them into your local business information document and Google Places, right? So your local business information document is here, right? You want to add your categories, and at the same time you want to add them to Google Places. When obviously this is your listing, you need to add those 5 categories, and they're even required. So that's the final step. So let me give you some tips to doing all this. Let's see. So tip number 1. All right. So tip number 1 is only look at competitors that match your business exactly. So for example, we do a search for equipment leasing agency, and we might start going through these companies and researching their categories, and they all relate to us. But we might come down to here and say truck rental. We're not related to a truck rental agency at all. So you don't want to add this to your list, right? You really need to read and look at it and say, well, does that business relate to me? If not, you're just going to, you're not helping yourself by adding that category and then having to go back and figure that all out. So you really have to research what companies exactly relate to you when you're doing this. Number 2, you also want to really pay attention to companies that have established listings. What are established listings? Well, usually they start with having pictures, right? They've uploaded a picture themselves, so obviously they're interacting with Google. Perhaps also they're ones that have a lot of listings like this. They have owner verified stuff. Perhaps they have photos, they have videos, right? We want to look at companies that are doing things in Google. Not to say that we don't want to look at the other companies, but hey, if another company's already optimized their listing, well, we want to copy that. So look at those. Tip number 3, again, don't copy every single category. If you do account financing but you don't do forestry account financing, right, don't add that to your list. But if you do forestry account financing, right, again, you want to add that specific one to your list because it might trump some of these other categories that Google recommends. And finally, a tip that I don't think is even in the written tutorial, but when you only can add 5 categories to Google. And so in your local business information document, you definitely want to add those 5, and perhaps bold the 5 that you added into to Google. But it doesn't mean that you can't add these other ones. If you say these are the 5 I'm going to add, but these also relate to my business, copy all of them, put them all in here. Organize them perhaps by importance, list the top 5 or bold the top 5, because other companies besides Google will allow you to add more than 5 categories. So you still want that in your local business information document, because the tutorials next are going to show you not just how to add your business to Google, but hundreds of other places. So don't lose this data, save this information, put all the categories that relate to your business, even if it's 20, because perhaps you can enter 20 categories into some other ones. And so that's the tutorial on category analysis. Again, you need this tutorial to finish this part of your local business information, and it's very important to ranking #1 in Google Places. So if you have questions, go to our site and we'll be happy to answer them.